Hello, my friends. Welcome to my corner. Happy New Year. I hope that all of your dreams come true in this year of 2026, and hopefully it will be a more peaceful one. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that. I want to show you some books, movies, some music that I have acquired recently, the way that I usually do things at the beginning of the year. So let me start with the Christmas presents, which is kind of what I always do. First things first, I have this poncho here that I'm wearing. It has like a little, I'm gonna see if I can show you the design. I had wanted to have a poncho for a very long time, and for some reason that happened only until recently when I saw one at a shopping mall, and I was like, my mother saw the look in my face and she was like, would you like to have that poncho? And I was like, yeah, this could be one of my Christmas presents. But as you know, I always get a book, a movie, and an album. This time I was able to sneak in another album, so let me show you that. We're gonna start with the music, and this is pretty simple here because I did Argentinian music this time. Let me do it this way. So I have the second album by Charly García, which is Clics Modernos. Listen to it because it's considered to be one of the top 10 Argentine rock albums. And then very closely related, this is from Serú, Girán, which was one of Charly García's bands, and this was a record that they released in 1992 as a reunion. So I had also wanted to have this one for a while, and finally I was able to find a copy, so I went with that. For the movie, I chose one of my favorites by one of my favorite directors, François Truffaut. And the one that I chose was Argent de Poche, I believe was the title in French, and in English it is known as Small Change. It's one of those movies about childhood, so highly recommended. And then for literature, for the book, I did a classic of Brazilian literature, Barren Lives or Vidas Secas by Graciliano Ramos. This is, I believe, a new translation, and the edition is quite, let's put it this way, quite affordable. Okay, it says absolutely nothing here in the back. If you look at the spine, it has only the title, okay, not the name of the author, which I think is kind of strange. But I was able to find a copy of this, or not a copy, but a PDF online of the original version, the original edition in Portuguese, so I can follow it closely, and then I can tell you if the translation is good and how I feel about that once I read it. This was the bag that all of this came in. This was actually a bag for wine. Okay, it said something like it holds 6 bottles or something like that, which is completely wasted on me, of course, because I don't drink alcohol. Now let me show you some random stuff. I'm just gonna grab the stuff that I have here, and I'll probably have to cut at some point because I have more stuff over there. My room is a mess. I need to do something about that, but we'll see when I can do that. Some of these you have already seen because I've done videos on them. For example, The Story of a Goat, Punachi, also by Perumal Murugan. So a great novel from India, from the perspective of a goat. So you can watch the video if you're interested in that. Then I found one day these really nice, very, very small, very short edition of The Death of Ivan Ilyich, one of my favorite novellas by, of course, Leo Tolstoy. So I was like, it was at the library, it cost I think 50 cents or something like that. I was like, oh, I would like to have an edition that has only that story. It's also the translation by Pivier and Volokhonsky, so I haven't read that. I've read others, so I wanted to try that one. The next book that I have right here was recommended, it's a classic, of course you know it. It was recommended to me by my friend Claudia, and I am just about to read it. I will, of course, share with you my ideas on it. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, so I am hoping to finally read that. I have some music here. I am missing only one album by Iron Maiden, and that is the Book of Souls. This was another one, The Final Frontier, that I was missing, so I was like, I need to get a copy of that. I enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite bands, by the way. This is not, I would say, their masterpiece, but it's very good. And of course, Iron Maiden, that doesn't disappoint. So I really enjoyed listening to that. I also felt like I needed to have something by Electric Light Orchestra, so I got The Essential. The Essential is a really nice series if you have not experienced them. Usually they are double CDs, so I believe always. So that's something also that I was looking for. This one in particular I like because it doesn't have any of the live versions of the songs. thing about me, I don't really like my studio and my live mixed in the greatest hits albums and stuff like that. If they include a song or two, it's okay, but sometimes you feel like, well, this song is so well known, it's a classic, and they give you the live version. I'm not too fond of that. So I thought this one was great. It has all the classics that you have heard, like Evil Woman, Strange Magic. One of my personal favorites is Calling America. It doesn't get a lot of play, but I heard it once at the at the grocery store, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great song. And then I found out that it was Electric Light Orchestra. And then I have something that I can show you real quick here. One day I went to a library. They have this little place at the front where they sell books, music, films. And they had a bunch of stuff by Nine Inch Nails. Apparently somebody got tired of them and they sold all of their albums that they had. And there were some that I already had. For example, the first one, Pretty Hate Machine, the Downward Spiral, the Fragile. And they had these four that I did not have because I stopped listening to them at some point. I don't know why, because I do like them. This is a live album titled All That Could Have Been. So the live album. Then they also had, of course, With Teeth, which is the one that the first one that I missed. Then Year Zero. I haven't heard any of these. Well, actually I have heard this one, Hesitation Marks, and that's another one that I was missing. I got it from the library at one point, just checked it out, listened to it, but I was like, well, if I can have a copy, if it's affordable, it would be a shame, to let this opportunity pass. Let's see, I did books, okay, let's do some movies now, just to mix things up a little bit. I found a copy of The English Patient, which I would like to reread and tell you about, and also watch the film, so we can look forward to that hopefully this year. One of the many things that I have that I'm planning for you. Great film, one of my favorite adaptations. It's different from the book, but the decisions that they made were just on point, if you ask me. I also found a copy. Most of these, by the way, are from library sales, or I just found them at half-price books. I have only a couple of things here that were bought new. Birdman, of course, great movie. It got the Academy Award. I was not expecting that, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but this is a great film in any case. Whether it's Academy Award material or not, that's a different story. Then I have, of course, A Walk to Remember. I do like this movie, okay? I read the novel a long time ago when I was in college. I liked the novel, and I thought the film was a very good adaptation. And one thing that I want to say, Mandy Moore, I absolutely loved her, when she was doing like her music at the beginning and all that stuff. I mean, I've lost track of what she's doing right now. That's why I speak in the past. It's nothing personal or anything like that. But one thing about this film, I really like her acting is excellent. How she can go from happy to sad to devastating. She's just amazing in this film. I haven't seen many others with her, but I can tell you this one, if you judge it by the parameters that it creates for itself, it's just a very, very well done movie and adaptation of the novel. Another Academy Award winner, I have quite a few of those, The Shape of Water. Great. I saw this at the cinema in Toronto when I was there when it came out. I was, wow, and I was sitting, I think, on the first row, because nobody likes to sit on the first row, so I felt like all the characters were about to fall on top of me. It was quite an experience, and I was there with one of my best friends, who is quite a few years older than I am, but we're just great friends, and I always think about him, and I write to him also letters every now and then. Speaking of Academy Award winners, I have trouble finding words today for some reason. I think I have been speaking Spanish for too long now, and not really speaking a lot of English, so that may account for that. I found a copy of Ordinary People, which I wanted to watch again. This is a great film. Recently I found out that the Pope, chose this one as one of his 4 favorite films ever. I think the other ones were Life is Beautiful, It's a Wonderful Life, then this one, and then The Sound of Music. So that was surprising, because many people that I know, including my mother, she doesn't seem to like Ordinary People that much, the movie I'm talking about, of course. And I'm like, that is an excellent film. Maybe she needs to watch it again. More Academy Award winners. I have Gladiator here, a film that I watched once and I want to experience it again. And another film from this cycle that we're doing right here is A Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood. I had seen this before. I wanted to rewatch it. It was there at the library for $1. I thought to myself, why not? At another library sale, I found, very providentially, I would say, the this edition, really nice, by Ignatius Press, of Chesterton's autobiography. I have not read his autobiography, but I feel that I should have read it already. But finding a copy like this is a lot better for me. As you may know, most of the works of G.K. Chesterton are available for free. They don't have a copyright or anything like that. But you know how it is, it's like I'm gonna put it on a PDF in my Kindle, and that's another screen that I have to look at, and my eyes are going to just hate me at one point in my life for that. So if I can find a paper copy, that is just wonderful. Another library, I went there and I found Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I do want to tell you about something by Philip K. Dick, because he is just such an amazing author. And I have not done a single video on his work. So I thought this might be a good idea to reread this one in this nice edition and see what I feel about it, how I feel about it after so many years, and then maybe use that as an excuse to rewatch the Blade Runner films that I like so much. My friend that I was telling you about, with whom I saw The Shape of Water, sent me a couple of books. And this one is a collection of essays titled Silent Catastrophes by W.G. Sebald. So it's just packed with interesting stuff for me. And I thought it was, I mean, look at this thing. Let me tell you, it's almost 500 pages in length. So I'm sure that I'm going to find plenty of stuff of interest for me right here. I hope this whole thing, this whole tower that I'm doing right here doesn't fall. Then let me see where I got this. Okay, I was missing one of the Lord of the Rings films. I have, for some reason, the versions in full screen, because that seemed like a good idea when I bought them back in the day and my TV had a square screen. So I finally found the last one, The Return of the King, in a widescreen format at a library sale, because that's another one, I mean, it's another thing. I could buy these films, I could have bought them at any point, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money because technically I already have them. But if I find them at a library sale, then that's perfect. At Half Price Books, I found a really nice edition. This is Cátedra edition, of course, of a book that I already had, the Canto General by Pablo Neruda. So I honestly have not read the entire Canto General, and I thought, wow, if I can read it in a Cátedra edition, that's even better. I get all the notes, I get all the introductions and all the critical appraisals and all that. So I was very happy about that one. And that day, let's go with this since I found it the exact same day. I have a collection of short sketches, stories, texts, fragments by Robert Balsa. And this one is titled, the collection, Little Snow Landscape. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was expecting a little bit more from this book in particular. I don't think, however, let me say this, that this is probably the best place to begin with Robert Balsa. I want to try something more important, if you know what I mean, more substantial than the fragments. I am not saying that I did not enjoy it, it's just that I was expecting something more. And honestly, that doesn't make a lot of sense now that I say it, because fragments are fragments. Brief texts are brief texts. It's not the brief texts by Kafka that blow you away. You may enjoy them, but they're not the ones that his literary reputation stands on. So that's something to keep in mind right there, but more to come about Balsa for sure. And also the same library where I found those Nine Inch Nails albums, they had this collection of Russian tales, Russian magic tales from Pushkin to Platonov from Penguin. So I'm looking forward to reading this. One of my students actually wrote an essay on one of the stories here, which is one of the most famous ones titled Vasilisa the Fair. And that is a really good story. So if you read a folktale, if you're wanting to read a Russian folktale, Vasilisa the Great is simply amazing. And I was inspired to read it when my student decided to write this essay. And I had just bought this book. It was quite a coincidence right there, if you believe in such a thing, as I always say. Now, instead of cutting here, let me see if I can just grab some stuff, and we'll see how it goes. It's going to be difficult, but maybe we can manage it like that. I have 3 more books published by Cátedra, and these were a gift, okay, from my friend Maria. She was trying to sort of dismantle her library, just decide what she was going to keep and what she was going to get rid of. So I went to her house after so many years. I hadn't seen her in a very long time. And when I get there, she tells me the library is on the 3rd floor. And I was like, wow, okay, wow. I have a problem. It doesn't happen all the time, but let me tell you, I have an issue when I go upstairs for a considerable time. If it's like a kind of a tall stairway, when I get to the top, I'm out of breath. And it's not a physical exercise or anything like that issue. It's something really, really strange that my stomach does, and I can't breathe or something like that. And I was like, I have to go up 3 flights of stairs. But I thought, well, it's for a good cause. You know, there are books up there, so let's try it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? So I went up the stairs very slowly, you know, very slow. I told her, hey, I need to take care of myself here. And I made it. I survived, as you can see. And I found 3 really, really nice books, all of them by Cátedra, published by Cátedra. Soledades by Luis de Góngora. This is one of the most important poems in Spanish. And some people sometimes make fun of this because this is one of those things that is just very difficult to understand, even for a native speaker of Spanish. Sometimes I feel like this. When I read it, I read the Penguin edition. And the Penguin edition has the original text and then also the English translation. And I felt like sometimes I had to read the English translation in order to understand what it was saying in Spanish. So it's one of those situations right there. It's really funny. And then the other 2 that she had were the 2 volumes of Cervantes's Novelas Ejemplares, which I do want to tell you more about because there are a couple of editions, at least 3 or 4 editions in English of this great collection of tales, and some of them are just amazing. So great Spanish literature, to continue with that series that I'm doing on Spanish literature to kind of promote the reading of Spanish texts a little bit more, because Spanish literature, as I always say, I feel that it is way, way underrated. Let me show you a few films and then we'll go with more books. Forgive me for this, but I do have a copy right now of The Fast and the Furious. I watched it, my students recommended it, and I asked them afterwards, hey, please tell me that this gets better. Okay, please tell me that, because, and some of them were like, it gets better and then it gets worse. And I was like, I just don't know. I mean, I'm not a car person, so I have no idea what I'm doing with this in the first place, but I'm not going to tell you that I hated it. I did not. I mean, for what it is, I think it does a very good job. But I don't know, this DVD in particular, I may be a little bit, you know, kind here, or whatever you want to call it, and let other people enjoy it, if you know what I mean. Then I have this great film by, let me give you the name correctly, Jan Schwankmajer, Little Otik or Otesanek. This is an excellent film. Okay, if you haven't watched this, it's about a couple who want to have children. They cannot. And one day the husband finds a little like stump of a tree or this kind of root or something, and brings it back to his wife. And he says, here's the baby, here's the kid. And his wife begins to take care of this wooden baby. And well, it just gets better from there. Really, really amazing film. As I always say, you know, there are at least 2 films that I know of that you don't want to watch when you're pregnant. One of them is Rosemary's Baby, and the other one is Little Otik or Otesanek. So just consider that. I found a copy for $4 at a little library bookstore that they have there at the entrance of Indochine. By this is Catherine Deneuve, but I don't remember here it is, Regis Vartnier, the director of this film, won the Academy Award. Okay, so I want to check it out again. I saw it a very long time ago. It's one of those epic movies, so I'm really looking forward to that. Recently, I ordered a copy of Inventing the Truth, The Art and Craft of Memoir. This is edited by William Zinsser. And this is basically because I read a book titled... Okay, I'm going to owe you the title because I don't remember. I'm probably going to put it here or something so that you can have that reference. And in that book, it said that this book, The Art of, Inventing the Truth, was the best book ever published on how to write memoirs. So I was like, okay, I'm interested in that. And the good thing about it, I did not know this, is that it's not by a single author. We have an editor, and then you have a bunch of very important authors of memoirs sharing their experiences on the craft. So you have, Frank McCourt, you have Henry Louis Gates Jr., Annie Dillard, Toni Morrison, sharing their ideas and their approach to the writing of memoirs. So, I'm really looking forward to reading that. I wanted to have something critical on one of my favorite writers, Claude Simon. So I found Understanding Claude Simon by Ralph Sarkonak. I had basically looked at this from a library, when I was in college, when I was reading Claude Simon, and it helped me to understand the author a little bit better. By the way, more to come on Claude Simon really, really soon, so be on the lookout for that. And I was like, I would like to actually have that book. It covers not all of his career, but I believe it has chapters up to Les Georgiques, so the Georgics, and that's basically as far as it goes. I believe that was the novel that he published right when he won the Nobel Prize, so that's what we're looking at. There are a few others, maybe 3 or 4 after that, but it covers the most important part of his work. And also at a library sale, I found, this is by Edwin Williamson. It's an updated edition with a new chapter of the Penguin history of Latin America. So this is good as a refresher, just to also learn about other countries, because I'm pretty sure that I know more about the history of Argentina than about the history of Ecuador, to mention one country, So this should be pretty good. It's rather thick, and it comes with a lot of maps and notes and all that, almost 700 pages. So that's another thing that I hope to explore this year, maybe. A couple of films that were left here. We have another winner of the Academy Award, Patton. I want to watch this one again. Not really one of my most memorable films from the Academy Award, but it's there. And then another movie that I thought, I'm going to read the book first and then I'm going to watch the movie, but for some reason, I don't know, I don't feel really like reading the book, so I think in this case I'm just going to jump to the film. Please let me know if the book is worth my time. That would be really nice, so I can maybe read this or something else by this author who is so well known, High Fidelity. So I want to see how romance and music, popular music, combine right there. I can still grab these books are still within my reach, so maybe we can do this. These are also, the next two are also from library sales. I have The Bridge of San Luis Rey by Thornton Wilder. So I have not read this. I've read his play, Our Town. I did not really like it. It was not what I was expecting, but I'm looking forward to reading this novel or novella. We'll see what it is. I found an interesting historical novel. This is about the settlers of the state of Virginia, A Durable Fire by Virginia Bernhardt. So this is also something that I hope to explore. It's very long, so probably a lot of details, and all that good stuff when you read historical fiction. And here's the other book that my friend sent me from Canada. These are the Odes by Horace, right? And they have a lot of translators here. I don't know how many, but I count at least 20 translators, different ones, poets, many of them. So it should be interesting. And also the good thing about this, not that I can read it or anything, but it does have the original in Latin. So maybe I can decipher a little bit because of my knowledge of Spanish and all that, of course. But it would be nice, to see if I can pick up some Latin just by looking at the English translation and then at the originals. So we have some more books here. I found something that I was missing, and here it is. This is volume 1 of the Bantam edition of the complete stories of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is also really nice because I had volume 2, but not this one. At my monthly library sale also I found The Human Comedy by William Saroyan. So this is a classic that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. Then I have a really nice little edition. This is a modern library hardcover of the best stories of Guy de Maupassant. So I have read some stories by him, but you can always read more. This is one of those great authors who basically made the short story the great thing that it is, if you ask me. You know, he added quite a bit to the genre with his tales. I have already shown you some of these are covered with dust because there's a lot of dust here, you know. The Melancholy of Resistance by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, which I've already done a video on, so if you're interested in my thoughts on that great novel, it's definitely there for you. And I found a really thick volume right here with very small print that I plan to give to my father as a gift at some point. It's titled The Scramble for Africa by Thomas Pakenham. This is from Abacus, the publisher Abacus. So a really nice, really detailed, I guess, history of Africa. And this is the kind of book that my father would enjoy. I would enjoy it too, but I tend not to read a lot of nonfiction, as you know. I always lean towards fiction. And they had at the library sale also this really nice copy. I mean, it's old and everything, but it seems unread, of Madness and Civilization by Michel Foucault. So I do want to devote more of my time to Michel Foucault, and I think this is a very good place to continue with reading of his work. I have some albums here that I want to show you so that we can do a little bit more music. I'm pretty sure I can reach all of the other stuff. This I bought on a whim, really, and I'm not I don't regret it. As I told you, the words are just not coming to me. This is the original album series of Echo and the Bunnymen. So it has the first 5 albums. I think my favorite is the 5th one, and I really like the second one, which is titled Heaven Up There. The 5th one is just titled Echo and the Bunnymen. So great stuff. And then of course Ocean Rain is the more well-known one, but it has the little albums here. You know, it brings all of that just like that, just the album in a sleeve, but it's really nice. Library sale, The Joshua Tree by U2. You know, I'm gonna say this is one of the classics, but I enjoyed some of the other albums, especially Achtung Baby, a little bit more than this one for some weird reason, so I just wanted to say that. I wanted to have something by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and I found this Greatest Hits at Walmart. Has all the great songs. You know, maybe there's 1 or 2 songs that I know of that are not included here, but I can live with that. Library sale also, Steve Miller Band, okay? The Greatest Hits that covers 1974 to 1978. So I know a song, for example, like Abracadabra is not going to be here, but all of the others are good, you know, like for example, Rockin' Me, Take the Money and Run, Fly Like an Eagle, The Joker, Jet Airliner, all of that good stuff by Steve Miller. I have this, I bought new, okay, Complete Greatest Hits by Foreigner. Foreigner, just like Electric Light Orchestra, just like Steve Miller, there were those bands that I was like, I need to have something by them, and this did the trick. And I have 2 more in that situation, and for example, this one is the very best of Hall and Oates. Great stuff, okay, I love the 80s, I love all of that pop stuff from the 80s, also the heavy metal from the 80s, everything basically, everything 80s, I'm in. And also, as I said, Rule the World by Tears for Fears. This is a Greatest Hits that kind of covers everything that the other Greatest Hits included, but they added some stuff to it. So it's really the one to get if you want to, you know, enjoy the music of Tears for Fears. Let's see, I have some more books right here. This one I still need to check out. It's also covered with a little bit of dust. It's titled The Wages of Cinema, A Christian Aesthetic of Film, in Conversation with Dorothy L. Sayers by Crystal L. Downing. So it looks like a really interesting approach to film from a Christian perspective. At a library sale, also, I found Existentialism is a Humanism by Jean-Paul Sartre. This book came with a little Valentine's Day card, so very interesting stuff. I'm going to share with you some stuff that I found here in this, you know, this message. I always find it interesting, you know, the stuff that you find inside books and all that. Copy of Kim by Rudyard Kipling. Want to enjoy this again. I enjoyed it very much when I read it the first time, and of course I'm doing the Nobel Prize series, so this would be really nice for that. Really quick, you know, I like to read plays sometimes, and one play that stuck with me, I read it and then I watched the film, which was also very well done, is Equus by Peter Schaffer. And I do want to read it again. I want to experience that again because it's one of those plays that really remained in my memory. And then here I kind of broke my own rule not to get editions that include the cover of the movie or the series or whatever, but I found at a library sale, this is the monthly library sale where I find basically most of the stuff that I get, this really nice modern library copy of Emma. So I do want to read Jane Austen again, okay? I've read all of her novels, most of her work, and I don't know, I feel like when I read her, I was not sophisticated enough to actually get the whole experience. So I am planning to go back to her work, and when I do, of course, you're gonna find out about that. I have a wonderful film right here. This is Shakespeare and Soccer in She's the Man. Okay, Twelfth Night, great play by Shakespeare. This is an adaptation of that, and it's translated into the high school world and all that. So highly recommend it. I really laughed out loud with this one. Then one day I went on a little road trip, and I'm going to show you what I found. I was really happy to find two novels by Alejo Carpentier that I was missing. This is El Recurso del Método, or Reasons of State, I believe it is called in English. It's a dictator novel. And the other one is El Siglo de las Luces, which is known in English as Explosion in a Cathedral. So when I do read more by Carpentier, I'm going to read these editions that I found, because I have other novels by him that I want to read also, but I did not have copies of these. And then I also found this little book. It was like a modern library edition. This is one of those books that I bought primarily because I thought, oh, okay, modern library, let's go with that. And this is titled The Selected Stories of Richard Bausch. And when I opened it, really interesting, it turns out that it is signed by the author. So I was like, okay, you know, that's even better. Let's go with this. I found out later on that he has won quite a few awards in the realm of the short story. So that is always something that I can learn more about. I want to learn from writers how to write good short stories. So I am definitely going to check out that book pretty soon. Also at a library sale, I found a book of English essays. Really interesting stuff from so many authors. As you can imagine, it begins with, you know, the classics by Francis Bacon, I want to say. Yeah, he's the first author included. And then you have, you know, Charles Lamb, so many great, Thomas de Quincey, Robert Louis Stevenson. It includes Chesterton and Belloc. So I was like, okay, you know, this looks really good as a collection of essays. It's one of the Penguin classics, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy it. And here I have, you have seen this one already probably, The Bookshop by Penelope Fitzgerald, another edition, a different one. When I reread it, I decided to experience it with this one. Or actually, no, I did not. No, I did not reread this one. I don't even know, you know, I don't even know what my name is at this point. Yeah, no, I read the older one, but I think I got this one right after that. And I was like, you know, a new edition of The Bookshop, a new introduction. That's okay with me. And here I have a book that I have been wanting to have a copy of for a very long time. This Life of Montaigne, titled How to Live. This is by Sarah Bakewell. So it's a really nice approach to the essays of Montaigne. And I still need to read them, but here I have this book also to expand a little bit on that. I'm missing just one thing, and those are the vinyl records that I found recently. So let me share that with you. These are some of the newest that I have. So I just found this yesterday, The Warrior by Scandal. I had just ordered the CD version that comes also with the EP songs. But I found this and I was like, you know, I can spare $5.99 for Patti Smith and much more than that. So I went with this too so that I can listen to it at the office where I have my little record player. I am also adding to my Al Stewart collection. They had Modern Times at $4 really. So very good stuff. I still need to listen to many of these because I haven't been to the office in a while, and that's where the player is. You have seen this one probably already. Ride the Lightning by Metallica. It's not even open. I am still savoring the moment, as I like to do, as I said before in another video. And here I have Panorama. You may have seen this also already by The Cars. Really good stuff. I did get the chance to listen to this one, and also to another one that you may have seen in a previous video, to this one by Al Stewart, the title of which is Time Passages. Okay, so great stuff right there. Now, this video ended up being very long, so I do hope that you enjoy it. If you didn't, I apologize for the length of the video, but I did want to show you all of these books. Now I can take them to the office and have a little bit more space here to move. in my room. So what do you think about these books, movies, CDs, albums, anything? Have you read any of these? Have you enjoyed them? Do you want to add anything, any recommendations for me? I always welcome that. So thank you so much for stopping by. Have a fantastic day, and I hope that this is an amazing year for you. Thank you so much once again.